Let's go on to look at some of the properties that you as a scientist will have to consider when you are choosing materials to make a gadget. So when you are a scientist and you want to choose the materials to make a gadget, these are some of the properties that you look at. So every material has a property. Some properties are good, some properties are bad. So now, before you make a material, you must think of the purpose of what you want to make. Let us say you want to make surgical gloves. So, surgical gloves are meant for medical personnel to be able to perform a medical activity on a patient without transmitting any disease or any virus either way. So it could be from the patient to the medical personnel, or it could be the other way around, from the medical personnel to the patient. So we must prevent transmission of anything either way. So that's the purpose of surgical gloves. So now, when we look at the purpose of surgical gloves, then we must then choose a material that suits the purpose. So this is a list of some of the properties that as a scientist you need to know and be able to define. The first property is strength. The second one is stiffness, flexibility, brittleness, hardness, conductivity, water absorption. We will start from the bottom. When we talk about water absorption, we are talking about the ability of a material to resist absorbing water, right? A good example of a material that resists water absorption is polymers, right? Polymers are materials that effectively resist water absorption. And then we go to conductivity. When we are talking about conductivity, we are talking about one, conducting heat, and secondly, conducting electricity. So when a material is said to be a good conductor of heat, it means that that material gives passage without resistance to heat. A good conductor of electricity will be a material that allows electricity to pass through it without much resistance. And we go on to hardness. When we talk about the hardness of a material, it is the material's ability to withstand scratching and indentation. The brittleness of a property, we are here now. The brittleness of a property, when a material is said to be brittle, we are talking about, or we are defining, a material that easily breaks when a force is applied on it. And we go on to define and describe flexibility. The flexibility of a material is the material's ability to bend without breaking when a force is applied on it. The stiffness of a material is its ability to withstand pressure. The strength of a material is a measurement of force that can be applied to a material without breaking. So let's say this marker pen of mine, right? I'm here at strength. obviously it has got a strength. If I apply force on top of it, it will resist. But if I keep on applying force, there is an amount of force which this marker pen will give in and break. So its strength is the measurement of a force before this marker pen breaks or before it collapses. So these are some, but not least, properties that you need to know as a scientist, and these properties, they help you to for the material that you choose to fit the purpose. I gave you an example. If you are making surgical gloves, and we said one of the main purposes of surgical gloves is to bar or to prevent transmission either way between the medical personnel and the patient. So when we are making surgical gloves, we don't need material that allows fluids or liquids to pass through. So we will obviously think about using polymers, or in simpler terms, plastics, to make our surgical gloves. But for example, let's talk about the kitchen gloves, the gloves that we use when we are preparing food, or rather when we are baking, mostly when we are baking. We obviously will not choose polymers to make kitchen gloves, but we are mainly looking at a material that resists heat, as well as a material that resists catching fire. So we start to think perhaps in the lines of using leather or something of that sort. So that's the explanation about the properties of materials.